Global IT outage. Okay, hospitals are hit in Harris County in Houston by this global IT outage. Major IT outage has ground flights. It has hit banks and businesses worldwide. Hospitals, airlines, banks, they're all being affected by this global IT crisis that's happening right now. I needed to post a video about this. The video that I had scheduled for today, I had to take it down as soon as I saw this news and had to reschedule for another time so that I could post this. Let's talk about how to be prepared for an IT outage as well as any other type of cyber attack. So it's funny, if your flight was canceled, your medical procedure rescheduled, or you woke up to find the blue screen of death in your PC, you're already aware of this massive tech outage. So what the heck happened? Apparently, a software update came from a place called CrowdStrike, a leading cybersecurity firm that says it's used by more than half of Fortune 500 companies. The update contained a defect that affected Microsoft Windows operating system, the company said. Mac and Linux users are not affected. I got my Mac right here. Okay. Just saying. We're not perfect, but it's okay. It's all right. Imagine you were on a flight and all of a sudden, because of this, all flights are literally grounded. You cannot go anywhere. We just recently went to New York, and I have to imagine what we would have done in this situation. Well, first of all, sure, from New York to Texas, it's like, okay, well, we can, wait until flights start back up again. But this is me and everybody else also waiting for these flights. We're not just talking about one flight that is canceled. We're talking about multiple flights that are being canceled, multiple itineraries, these kinds of things. We're talking about a really heavy global thing right now of people not being able to get on their flights and hoping to get on another one. So yes, I could have tried to wait for the next airplane. We could try to rent a car. We could have tried to stay a couple extra days. These are things that you can try to plan for. It's really hard to plan for something like that. It's like, what are you going to do? Like, you could try again to rent a car. Okay, but so is everybody else, or a lot of people, right? Anyway, not everybody, but probably a lot of people are trying to do the same thing. And then, hotels might be more booked than usual. You might not be getting the best deal in a hotel, all these things. So there's lots of variables here. We're not just talking about being grounded in a place. We're talking about also potentially more finances that you're having to spend because you're having to potentially rent a car or, get a new hotel or whatever the case may be. So we're talking about a whole bunch of other stuff happening here. But it's okay because it says here that the company is deeply sorry about this. We're sorry. So sorry. It reminds me of that South Park episode of the BP oil spill, and they're making fun of we're sorry. So sorry. Sorry. Now we're talking about banks. So banks are a big one. So we actually experienced this firsthand. We had to go to the bank to get a cashier's check. Well, the bank said we cannot do a cashier's check. We can't even check your balance. They couldn't do anything. They said that they could do some deposits and they could do a withdrawal for up to $500, but they couldn't do literally anything else. So bonkers, right? That's crazy. We were trying to call in and stuff too, and it was an hour wait. So banks are heavily impacted right now as well. So this leads me into, do you have cash? What recently happened in Houston was the hurricane. And of course, they had to go through a situation where a lot of things were down. There was literal power outages out. So nothing was working. And if you had to go into a store to pay cash, of course, the store is still going to expect you to pay cash, right? To expect you to pay for things. So if you did not have cash, you wouldn't get that thing, okay? And if a store even stayed open, I know a lot of stores closed, but if a store was still open and just, having no actual cash register or anything, you could still pay with cash in a lot of instances if you had cash, right? So do you have an okay supply of cash that you could take in case of these types of emergencies? Now, being a prepper, I think of a few situations that I would need cash. gas, but gas also runs with electricity. So a lot of gas stations do have a backup generator. So if you are still able to get gas, thankfully, because those gas stations have backup generators, then you would have to pay cash. There's a few situations that I can think of in which I might need cash, but as a prepper, we need to be prepared in the sense of which I don't ever want to go out during that power outage. Like right now we needed that cashier check from the bank, but otherwise we didn't need any other services and that kind of thing at that time, and we weren't personally affected by the planes and things like that, or, my screen turning blue or whatever. I'm going to get to that in a second. But, so we want our food and supplies and extra gas here at our home. We do not want to have to rely on another business or anybody else. It's nice to have that cash on hand just in case we will need it, but we don't want to rely on it, okay? Be prepared with the extra cash, but also be prepared with the supplies that you already have at your home, right? You don't want to have to be running to the grocery store for anything. You don't want to have to be running out for gas. You don't want to have to be running out for basic medical supplies, medications, all these things. Have these things at your home ready to go, okay? Of course, there are always emergencies and things. Even during this, 911 is being impacted in some areas. So that's something to keep in mind as well. If in an emergency, 911 is being impacted, what are you going to do? I mean, that's a huge risk, a huge thing that's going on. Now, I do want to talk about the blue screen of death. Now, let's say that, this really freaks you out, okay? You're not really sure if your computer is going to be coming back. I have said so many times, get hard copies of everything. You should be having books. You should have hard copies of recipes and DIYs, and you should have hard copies of photos. Yes, have backups of things, okay? So I always have backups of my phone and my computer and all these things. So like if my computer craps out, great, well, I have a backup, it's okay. My phone craps out, okay, I have backups of everything. That's all well and good. But every time somebody brings up a USB to me, I say, that's fine, but use the USB as a backup. Your USB should not be, your backups and your hard drives and all these things, they shouldn't be your main source. They should just be your backups. What I want is those hard copies. I want the hard copies. Give me a hard copy of my, insurance forms. Give me a hard copy of, my, whatever the case may be, my recipes, all these things, my pictures, right? We live in a digital world. We live in a world in which we are so reliant on technology that we just don't think about these things, We have hard copy of DVDs and CDs, okay? Like that's how hard we are about hard copies. Like we watch a lot of Hulu and digital stuff, but we have hard copies of all of our favorite TV shows and movies, and we have board games, and we have all these things that are hard right in front of you. You can physically touch, okay? Now imagine if this was not some software glitch that went out, okay? Imagine that this was a cyber attack, or imagine if this was some EMP attack. We can take this as a reminder to better fortify our home so we are not having to run out to the store if something were to happen, to better have more cash on hand in case these types of things happen, to better secure our assets and have physical copies of everything. So this is just a solid reminder for you to try to get more on the same page of rely on technology still, right? You're watching a YouTube video, for crying out loud, okay? We love technology, but let's also remember the other side of things in which technology can fail at any time for any reason. Blackouts, cyber attacks, CrowdStrike, whatever may be the issue, EMP, whatever we're talking about here, a hurricane, anything can knock our ability to communicate or our reliance on technology just like that. So let's just keep this in mind as a really nice refresher on how we want to work out our preps. Okay, thank you all so much for watching. Calling you tomorrow about rain today.